this special order.
Without objection.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here tonight. I appreciate my colleagues who are also members of the Border Security Caucus. For 4 years, we've stood here and exposed the open border policies of the Biden-Harris administration. For 4 years, we've seen what happens when the America First border security policies that President Trump had put in place were thrown out. And in just over 1 month, we've seen what happens when those policies are put back in place. Since President Trump took office, ICE agents have arrested more than 20,000 illegal aliens. That's just in 1 month. By comparison, Joe Biden only had 33,000 at-large arrests for the entire year of 2024. And when Joe Biden was in charge, over 300,000 illegal aliens crossed the border in just 1 month. In President Trump's first month, illegal crossings did not even reach 10,000. The actual number was 8,400. And whereas Biden let all of those people into the country without proper vetting, some of which were known criminals and terrorists that we're now trying to find, under President Trump, people who illegally cross the border are stopped and immediately detained or removed. Because of President Biden's catch and release policies, every state had the pathologies of a border state. Because of this, immediately after taking office, President Trump charged ICE officers with cleaning up streets across the country by detaining the illegal aliens that Joe Biden had released into the country. And while they were attempting to prosecute him, President Trump, for bogus charges in multiple jurisdictions, the Biden regime was releasing actual criminals into every city in America. Tonight, we're going to be exposing the Biden-Harris administration's open border policies and President Trump's work to remove them. We'll highlight the tireless work of ICE agents tasked with arresting some of the worst individuals who have invaded our country. Despite being demonized by the mainstream media and organized campaigns to interfere with and prevent arrests, including by exposing personal information of agents, in just 1 month, those agents have taken thousands of violent and malevolent offenders off of our streets. In just 1 month, President Trump has put an end to the endless invasion of our communities by illegal aliens. It's my pleasure now to yield to my co-chairman of the Border Security Caucus 3 minutes to the gentleman, Mr. Babin.
Thank you to my good friend, Andy Biggs from Arizona, and my co-chair. Really appreciate you having tonight's very important special order. Well, the truth is simple. The Biden administration threw open the floodgates, allowing murderers, rapists, and chaos to pour into our communities, all in pursuit of political power. They knew exactly what they were doing. Securing the border was never an impossibility, as they let the nation and us believe. It was always a choice, and for the last 4 years, the wrong choice was deliberately made. We were told that enforcement wouldn't work, that the crisis was simply too big to fix, but those were lies. Lies meant to cover up the fact that an open border was exactly what they wanted to do. They dismantled every tool that worked, inviting criminals to walk right in. And we saw the consequences play out in the most destructive ways imaginable. 15 million illegals entered under the Biden administration's watch. Tonight, you will hear about the evils that were unleashed onto our neighborhoods by the Biden administration, resulting in death and destruction of innocent American lives. How many more lives must be lost? How many more families must grieve before they admit their open border agenda is destroying this country? 100,000 Americans per year dying of deadly Mexican cartel and Chinese drugs that have come in over our open border. Hundreds of thousands of lost children from the child sex trade and human trafficking, murders, rapes, and pillaging from illegal alien gangs, swamped public schools, hospitals, and public services. But here's the good news, folks. The days of lawlessness are over, because on day one of the Donald Trump administration, we finally have a strong leader in the White House. And just like that, the border was shut down. All it took was that leadership and the will to enforce the law. The message was sent loud and clear. America is not open for lawbreakers anymore. Illegal crossings have plummeted. Deportations are back in full force. And as co-chair of the Border Security Caucus, I'm committed to keeping these dangerous criminals off of our streets. Working hand in hand with President Trump, with Vice President Vance, and leaders like Tom Homan, we're making sure that child traffickers, drug smugglers, and gang members are rounded up and sent packing back to where they belong. We are kicking them out by the thousands, just like we should have been doing all along these last 4 years. This is how you put America first, folks. You don't make excuses, you act. You don't let criminals run free. You lock them up or send them home. You don't leave the border wide open. You shut it down and you take control. The American people deserve safety, not suffering. They deserve law and order, not chaos. They deserve leadership that protects them, not one that absolutely betrays them. And that's what Donald Trump and Tom Homan are delivering to us right now, and they are just getting started. And with that, I yield back.
I thank the gentleman who's seen in his own district time and time again the abuse caused by this out-of-control illegal aliens.
Man.
And now it's my pleasure to yield to my friend from Wisconsin, also in the Border Security Caucus, the gentleman, Tom Tiffany, for 3 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, I want to say thank you to the gentlemen that have led the Border Caucus, Mr. Babin and Mr. Biggs. Thank you so much for your leadership on this issue. It's as a result of your efforts that you continue to deliver this message to the American people of what a disaster this was going on in our southern border that caused this to be the #1 issue in the past election before the American people. And in particular, I want to thank Mr. Biggs from Arizona. The first trip I did after being sworn in May of 2020 was to go down to the southern border, and with a trip that he led with many of us, as he did so many times with so many members. I don't know if there's hardly any members on the Republican side that he didn't lead on the southern border to deliver the message. It's there that I got to meet people like Sheriff Mark Lamb from Pinal County in Arizona, Sheriff Mark Daniels down in Cochise County, who talked about back in 2020 about how the border was becoming secure. At the end of the Trump administration's first term, the border was becoming more secure. You visited them a year later, and they told you it was all deteriorating, simply because there was a change in the presidency. So I want to thank them for their leadership in regards to this. You have done a service to the American people, and hopefully we can fix this for the future. We just had a hearing this morning with a sheriff from one of the counties in Texas, a border county there, as well as one of the leaders of the Border Patrol Union. And they told us it is night and day since January 20th. Thank God we have new leadership in the White House, because the border is once again secure. So I would just say, remember when the media and Democrats told us that President Biden needed a bill to fix the border? That was a lie. As President Trump said last week in his joint address, all we really needed was a new president. If there's one thing that's been proven over the last month, it's that the Democrats' border invasion was intentional. President Trump announced illegal border crossings in February were the lowest in decades. February 2024 under Biden, nearly 190,000. 2025 under Trump, a little over 8,000. That's a 96% decrease without a single new law from Congress. The difference, real leadership. It's truly a shame that Democrats willingly let the killers of Laken Riley, Jocelyn Nungare, and Rachel Morin into this country. It's also a shame they did not deport criminals like the one in my congressional district who killed Stephen Nashholm, a father of 3 daughters. Thankfully, President Trump didn't wait for excuses. He took action by putting Remain in Mexico back in place, declared an emergency at our southern border, sent troops to help the Border Patrol, put a stop to illegal crossings, and signed the Laken-Riley Act into law to deport dangerous criminals. Gone are the days of catch and release, which have a completely different meaning where I come from in the lakes in northern Wisconsin. But President Biden had turned it into an illegal alien term where illegals who were caught at our southern border were released into the U.S. To be clear, the last administration chose to let America be invaded. President Trump chose to stop it. Now American strength is back and stronger than ever, but we cannot stop here. Congress must act now to ensure these gains are not undone by the next weak president in the White House. We must codify things like stopping birthright citizenship, ending catch and release, ensuring that ICE has the tools needed to carry out mass deportations, and preventing parole abuse permanently. President Trump is doing his job. Now it's time for Congress to do ours. No more excuses. It's time to stand up for America. I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. Appreciate his willingness. We have been to the border together. As everyone speaking tonight, I think we have been, except for Mr. Gill, who I've got to get down there with me because it's always fun. Anyway, I'm pleased to yield 3 minutes to my good friend from Georgia, Mr. Clyde.
Thank you to my friend Congressman Biggs for holding tonight's special order and leading on this critical border issue. Since day one, President Trump has taken incredible steps to secure our border and protect the American people. These measures include ending catch and release, reinstating Remain in Mexico, restarting construction of the border wall, and cracking down on sanctuary cities. Recently, the Trump administration ended the taxpayer subsidization of open borders, meaning Americans' hard-earned tax dollars will no longer be used to support or incentivize illegal immigration. Additionally, the Trump administration has made great progress in carrying out its mass deportation operation. You know, what used to be called the CBP-1 app to allow illegals to more easily come into the country is now the CBP Home app. And you know why it's called the Home app? Because it's good for a one-way ticket home for illegal aliens so they can self-deport. President Trump is emptying our country of illegal aliens. Promises made, promises kept. Border Czar Tom Homan and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem are tirelessly working to detain and deport illegal aliens. ICE agents, along with key assistance from local, state, and federal law enforcement partners, have already arrested and issued detainers for thousands of criminal illegal aliens, including murderers, drug traffickers, suspected terrorists, and MS-13 gang members. For example, ICE recently arrested an illegal alien in Atlanta, in my home state of Georgia, whose criminal history includes a conviction of 4 counts of indecent liberty with a child. 4 counts. This heinous criminal illegal has no place in the Peach State or anywhere else in our great country for that matter. I'm deeply appreciative of the Trump administration for taking criminal illegals off of our streets. My Northeast Georgia district has seen the devastating impact of criminal illegal alien crime up close and personal. Last year, Maria Gomez Perez, a 12-year-old girl, was abducted in Gainesville, Georgia by an illegal alien. Thankfully, she was rescued and found in Ohio. Days before the 2024 election, Mimi Rodriguez Ramirez, a 25-year-old mother, was murdered by an illegal alien from Mexico, and that happened in Habersham County. And just outside my district, Laken-Riley, the 22-year-old nursing student was brutally murdered by an illegal alien in Athens, Georgia. President Trump is working to prevent these tragedies from devastating additional families and communities across our country. I applaud his work to make America secure, safe, and great once again. Thank you, and I yield back to my friend from Arizona.
I thank my friend, the gentleman from Georgia. And now I am privileged to yield 3 minutes to my friend from Indiana, who I took, and I'll always remember him going off with Art Del Cueto and leaving the rest of us in a car stuck with a bad tire and stuck in the dirt as we were down on the border. But it's good to see that you made it, Jim. So I yield 3 minutes to Mr. Baird.
I thank my good friend from Arizona. I'm also see that you got back, and I appreciate that. But anyway, Mr. Speaker, under the Biden administration, our borders were wide open, with record numbers of illegal immigrants and deadly drugs flooding across our border. Under President Biden, every single state became a border state, including Indiana. These include dangerous criminals that ties to gangs such as the Tres de Argo and the MS-13, who have committed horrific crimes and vicious attacks against innocent Americans. Last year, an illegal immigrant with ties to MS-13 stabbed a teenage girl in the hand at a baseball game in Lowell, Indiana. After an extensive search, the culprit was found and arrested. I thank law enforcement officers for their hard work to find and arrest this criminal. Under President Trump, we have swiftly returned to common sense border policies, and illegal border crossings have plunged to a record low. In January 2025, there were 61,465 illegal border crossings, down from 176,000 in January of 24. Just last month, illegal crossings at our southern border plummeted to the lowest level on record. President Trump has sent a message loud and clear: the border is closed, and his strong border security policies are working. House Republicans are working with the president to implement his agenda to secure our border and keep Americans safe. I yield back.
I thank the gentleman who's also a member of the Border Security Caucus. Thank you for being with us tonight. And now it's my pleasure to yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, another border state, a newcomer who's setting the world on fire, Mr. Gill.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over the past 4 years, Joe Biden and the Democrats have inundated American communities with massive numbers of violent illegal aliens who are murdering and raping and torturing and pillaging our people on our soil. And the entire time they did it not by accident, but as a deliberate policy decision to open up our borders and flood our country with people that they believed would be future Democrat voters for life. It was also, we have to remember, a part of a policy that was done with the approbation of a cheap labor lobby who wanted to import millions of people who would act as a virtual new serf class of laborers to reduce American working class wages in this country. The consequences of this were absolutely catastrophic for the American people. Almost 15 million illegal aliens, perhaps more, depending on what estimates we use, have come into this country. Thankfully, this nightmare is finally over because we have a president who actually cares about the American people. We have a president who doesn't make excuses, a president who doesn't tell us lies like the executive needs to rely on new laws to enforce our border, a president who actually just gets the job done. His border enforcement efforts have caused known gotaways to fall by 93%, with an average of just 132 a day right now. And even as this nightmare in our country is finally coming to a close, we've got colleagues on the other side of the aisle right now who are facilitating this invasion as best they can and going back to their districts and helping protect illegal aliens who have no business being here in the first place and teaching them how to evade ICE detection. Absolutely disgusting, Mr. Speaker. We have got to codify President Trump's border policies into law so that we cannot let the other side of the aisle unleash the same kind of hell on our country that they did over the past 4 years. We've got to codify every single executive order, including his Remain in Mexico policy. I've got a bill, the Remain in Mexico Act, that would do precisely that. We've got over 100 co-sponsors. Mr. Speaker, I think we need to bring this bill to the floor. This is what the American people want. This is what the president wants. And I think we need to act fast. So with that, I yield back and thank you guys very much.
I thank the gentleman. I thank him for his passion and he's right. He's right. We do need to codify President Trump's policies because we cannot ever go back to a period of time like we just experienced under the Biden regime. So the Trump policies are a product of understanding what needs to happen. The mere fact that Donald Trump was elected almost immediately terminated the onslaught of people crossing our border. Let me give you an example. When I was meeting with the new Border Patrol chief, Chief Banks, and I asked him what's going on. He said, Andy, 3 caravans turned back yesterday. That is what happens when you enforce the law. People who are going to break the law, they stop breaking the law. So when I was down at the border just a few weeks back, I wanted to compare. So I went to a place where I knew we had regular flow of illegal aliens crossing the border. It was eerily quiet when I was there. The only thing that we saw and noticed on the southern side of the border were the watchers, the scouts. All of a sudden, they saw us, they came out, they were watching and observing us. But let's talk about some of the people that have come in under the Biden administration's terrible, terrible, and dangerous anti-American policy. First is Eduardo Domingo Renault Matu. Some call him Turco. In the sanctuary city of Los Angeles, federal agents arrested Eduardo Domingo Renault Matu, also known as Turco, who's charged with running one of the largest human smuggling organizations in the country, spanning 5 years and smuggling in around 20,000 illegal aliens, largely between L.A. and Phoenix. And just so you know, the last number was about $10,000 per person that he was smuggling. A co-defendant of his was also charged with threatening to behead a Homeland Security investigations agent and his family while authorities were conducting a search of his home. Charges against them, he and his co-defendant, include hostage-taking, transporting aliens into the U.S., and transporting aliens for private financial gain and resulting in death. Illegal aliens were charged, in some instances, more than $15,000 for transportation, and if they couldn't make the payment, they were held as hostages in stash houses in L.A. and Phoenix. So let's take a look at someone else. Let's see if we can find Wilmer Giovanni Fuentes Benitez. On February 2nd, ICE officers in Philadelphia arrested Honduran national Wilmer Giovanni Fuentes Benitez, who was previously deported 3 times. This time he was also arrested for resisting arrest and battery of a police officer. These are the people that my friends across the aisle say should be allowed to remain here in these sanctuary cities. ICE agents in Omaha arrested a member of Tren de Aragua who had spent 7 years in a Venezuela prison for robbery, resisting arrest, and unlawfully discharging a firearm. In Newark, New Jersey, ICE agents arrested Fernando Hernandez Martinez for 2 counts of child molestation. We have another poster. This is Jose Roberto Rodriguez Urbina. On January 22nd, ICE agents in New York City arrested El Salvadoran national Jose Roberto Rodriguez Urbina, who is wanted in his home country on extortion charges. This is what happens when an administration does not properly vet people they let into the country. Criminal fugitives see the U.S. as a safe haven from justice, and they abuse the parole statute. They literally granted parole to millions of people when the very purpose of parole never saw more than 25 or so people admitted into the country under parole, but not under the Biden administration. In St. Paul, Minnesota, another individual was arrested by ICE agents, Victor Covarrubia Ozuna, for sexually assaulting a child. Another, in San Francisco, California, ICE agents arrested Edwin Davila Galvan for lewd acts with a minor. We have another poster. On January 27th, ICE agents in San Diego arrested an Afghani who had an existing removal order and was a known or suspected terrorist. Despite having a removal order, the Biden-Harris administration and Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas could not be bothered to deport this suspected terrorist. He was roaming our streets and had to be captured by ICE agents. We have another individual, another poster. No posters, okay. On February 5th, ICE officers in Harris County, Texas, arrested Mexican national David Gonzalez Martinez for aggravated assault causing serious bodily injury. Gonzalez has illegally entered the country at least 4 times and was removed from the U.S. in 2001, 2008, and 2015. He was previously convicted of voluntary manslaughter, aggravated assault with a weapon, drug possession, and illegal reentry. On January 27th, ICE agents in Brockton, Massachusetts, arrested Guatemalan national Edilio Agustin Ariana. Agustin is charged with 5 counts of assault with a dangerous weapon, 3 counts of kidnapping, and armed home invasion. He has a record with ICE going back as far as 2002, when he was first arrested for illegally entering the United States. 4 minutes. These are the types of individuals that are currently being arrested by ICE under the leadership of Tom Homan. These are the types of individuals that are being protected by sanctuary cities. When we had recently a hearing, we had the mayors of 4 of these sanctuary cities in. All of them said, but we cooperate with ICE. We don't keep people from being deported, or we don't stop handing them over, but they do. They release them in the parking lot. Let me read you the statutes that they're violating. Here's one. 8 U.S.C. 1373A, notwithstanding any other provision of federal, state, or local law, or federal, state, or local government entity may not prohibit or any way restrict any government entity or official from sending to or receiving from the Immigration and Naturalization Service information regarding the citizenship or immigration status, lawful or unlawful, of any individual. You cannot do it. There's not even a culpable mental state required. You simply can't restrict it. But the sanctuary cities are preventing ICE and the immigration officials from getting this information. Here's this one. This is 8 U.S.C. 1324C. In conducting investigations and hearings, immigration officers and administrative law judges shall have a reasonable access to examine evidence of any person or entity being investigated. But when the sanctuary city mayors say you can't cooperate with ICE, they're violating this statute. They have criminal culpability. And also, you'll see there's no culpable mental state. There's no requirement that they intentionally or willfully, knowingly do it. It's a per se statute. They're violating this. They have criminal culpability. The sanctuary cities also have culpability on this. Any person who knowing, now you have a culpable mental state, that a person is an alien, knowing or in reckless disregard of the fact that an alien has come to, entered, or remains in the United States in violation of law, conceals, harbors, or shields from detection, or attempts to conceal, harbor, or shield from detection, such alien in any place shall, for each alien in respect to whom such a violation occurs, be fined, imprisoned not more than 10 years, or both. Now, I want you to understand something. What you have here is you have mayors telling their police chiefs and their officers, don't hand these people over. Don't hand them over. And there's no distinction between civil or criminal. And when they do that, they know that they're concealing. That's a penalty. That's a criminal sentence up to 10 years. They're violating the law. They need to be prosecuted. And I'm calling on Pam Bondi, the new Attorney General, and I'm also calling on Mr. Holman to make that happen. With that, Mr. Chairman, I tip my hat to Mr. President Trump. What he's done just by enforcing the law has actually secured most of our border. With that, I yield back.
pursuant to Clause